Hi, welcome to DGRN Podcast number 8. This is going to be a bit of a blitz episode here. Not trying to take too much of time given, so we're going to get straight to it, hopefully. So, we left off for Cup at Pocono, and we left off for Busch at Martinsville. Since then, we've had some Cup races go on, mostly just two, if you exclude the All-Star stuff. My mom's having a good time in the background. I'm not sure that's picking up on stream or not, but if it is, I don't care. And Busch had just recently gone to Charlotte, Louisville, and Texas. So some races there that were really, really interesting. Starting off in Michigan, though, it was David who won. Had a good race. Mostly Lark was the dominant car overall, but alas, David made a last lap pass on me for the win. I had dived it down to the inside in 3 and 4, tried to slide up because David had the run on the top side. I slid a little too much. David was able to get underneath me. He slew down a little bit and able to get underneath me. I wasn't able to block in time, and he got underneath me and won the race. So good on him for his first triumph of the year, of the season, I should say, more likely. And, I think blew a lot of people out the water because I think mostly Monkey Ops, you can see Monkey Ops and HP were mostly the favorite coming into this weekend, and here comes David. It was a 550 package, kind of, so everyone was kind of all over the place. It was entertaining, but extremely, extremely wild. Almost too much at times, so Michigan was a wild card, we'll say that. Then after Michigan, we had some cool races. All-Star Open and All-Star Race. Mr. Beast won the All-Star Open, somewhat in controversial fashion. Got the line over Caden, I believe it was. And then the All-Star Race, chaos ensued, but it was Lark who was able to take the All-Star win. That's 75 playoff points. On top of all the wins and poles he already has on the year, that is like lethal for the rest of the Cup field when it comes down to the playoffs. So they're really going to be on their A game and really drive Lark, unfortunately, harder than they really need to. And then after the All-Star race, it was time for Busch racing at Charlotte, where Lark as well got the win. And it looked to me that he could have done a crazy thing and swept the entire weekend. Wins, All-Star Race, Busch, and Cup. And he won in a 3-way finish with myself and Carson. It was almost calling to question because Lark kind of was in the grass a little bit. It was kind of a debate on whether he was forced down there or not. And turns out he was forced, got the win. And that was cool. Moving on to the 600, very cool race. I think one of the best races, or the best race of the season. Monkey Got Hops gets his second win of the year. Takes that trail, his first crown jewel win as well. He's knocking off all the things left to do. He finally got championships in the highest levels, so, he feels like he's accomplished everything he wants, but just the icing on the cake, just all the crown jewel stuff would be very nice. And then Busch racing 2 days in a row. First with the Roval, and then at Texas. The Roval was mostly dominated by B-Rad and Mr. Beast, but it wouldn't be either of those guys winning, as Mr. Beast fell down the order catastrophically. And B-Rad, despite catching up to Michi, got wall glitched twice in one lap, and with 2 laps to go, and that basically ended all of his chances of winning. And that gave Michi the victory at the Roval. Then at Texas, it was also Mr. Beast doing very well. Coincidentally, Rack Avenue having his best race of the year thus far, and you had Neptune up there as well. Neptune won this race by fuel mileage. The second time this has happened, I think, all season. I don't think Cup has had a fuel mileage race yet. So Busch has the knack of these types of things. And he made it with 80 milliliters left, or 80 ml left, which is nuts. He gets his first win of the year, his second DGRN win as a whole, second Busch Series win. Congrats to Neptune on that. And then finally, we head on to North Wilkesboro, which David dominated flag to flag. Also, the Charlotte weekend was non-stages. So is North Wilkesboro, also non-stages. David got away from the field and was challenged like maybe twice all race, and then just never looked back. It was kind of like a Kyle Larson type of deal. And they call David a short track merchant, and that seems to be true still. Not much has changed from that. But yeah, gets the win there. Now looking at points. On the Busch side of things, Michi takes the points lead and dethrones B-Rad for the first time. And you have, just a second, I'm not sure. You have B-Rad in second, Mr. Beast third, Rack fourth, Abstract fifth, and Wicked, after the tumultuous season he's had, finds himself in sixth. Then you have Neptune, Carson, Cole, Rory, and others seventh on back. The playoff bubble picture is looking very interesting thus far. It's just kind of wild, I think. Seeing how close this actually is. And in most cases, it doesn't stay like this, unfortunately. Usually, what will happen is that the top six will start to pull away, and then it's realistically only like one or two guys that can point their way in. That's usually how these things go. Since it's a shorter season, it could be a little closer. Who knows? Considering what the races we have left. That's what points look like right now. And then for Cup, it is still Lark and Silent the top two. So you have David in third, Monkey fourth, Windows fifth, HP sixth, Kaiden, Bakers, Jessic, Charles, and all those guys down in the lower rankings here. Now, the next four races I have to emphasize they're extremely important, and two races are most important. And those races that are most important are Talladega and Bristol. And you may be wondering, why not the Crown Jewels? Why aren't they important? Or why don't I put as much emphasis on the Crown Jewel races? That doesn't make much sense, does it? It makes sense when I put it in a certain way. Talladega and Bristol, they're very different tracks, but they have one thing in common, and that they're both stage races. Stage races are going to get you generally more equalized points per se if you do well in a stage or something. So, for instance, both these series have Talladega, Darlington, Bristol, and Indy as their next four. There's four races left. That's all they have. If you are a driver underneath the cut line, I'm eyeing Talladega and Bristol for you. Reason is, you can get stage points, number one, and number two, if you get stage points and you don't finish that well, depending on what stage points you get, you can salvage your day. Or, better yet, if you dominate Talladega or Bristol, which is not uncommon. You've seen Miguel and Caden, especially in Busch last season, do really well at that track, work together really well. It's not impossible to get a lot of points. Someone's at my doorbell, and I don't feel like answering it. But I have to, because someone's at the door. But while I get that, you can kind of get an idea of what there is to expect. Anyway, sorry about that. First time the doorbell's kind of interrupted my stuff. That's fun. I digress. Yeah. So Talladega, Bristol, both very, very, very important. What's also, I guess, Darlington and Indy are also somewhat important, but to a lesser extent. And the reason I say that is that if you win at Darlington or Indy, you win big. Like, you get a lot of points instantly. But if you do horribly, and by horribly, I mean like 6th or worse, because you really don't get a lot of points past 5th at all. So if you get 6th or worse, even 5th doesn't really get a whole lot of points. It's going to be rough for you, man. So, for anyone that's below the cut line, I'd really eye Talladega and Bristol as your kind of last hope, unless you're really good at either Darlington or Indy and feel really confident that you're not going to have a bad day there. Like, that's it. I mean, Darlington and Bristol, they don't have death walls, so you are safe, quote unquote. But Indy's going to have death walls and death fences, so will Talladega. But these next 4 races are going to be really tricky because they're very different. Super Speedway, Darlington's Darlington. Indy is fun in its own way, 2-miler. And Bristol is short track. And not everyone's a short track, I don't want to say merchant, but a short track master, I'll say. We'll say that for simplicity's sake. Now, kind of giving advice. We'll go through the entire field. I'm going to ignore the top 3 in Busch for now. I think, for the most part, they are kind of locked in. Kind of. If you are Rack Avenue, you cannot have a big meltdown and you cannot lose sight of what's in front of you. Even if you do have a bad race. You have to keep getting points, especially, I probably think, for him, I'll say Talladega and Indy are his best shots. I don't think he's going to be amazing at Darlington. I'll say that. I don't think he's going to be terrible, but I don't think he's going to get the points he needs. And I also I don't know how he's going to do really at Bristol. I don't think he's going to be that great. Indy and Talladega is going to be his best shots. Talladega for 1, because almost anyone can win there. And Indy for 2, because I don't think Indy's going to be a super hard setup. I still need to refine it, but it seems like the easier the setup is, Rack does better, which Texas was an easy-ish setup. So he did quite well for himself. Missed it here. Abstract just needs to show up to more races. I think also just finishing out. Wicked needs to keep the positive momentum going. And then if you're really net tuned through Cole, get as much points as you can. Neptune can basically win almost anywhere. Carson, I think probably Indy as well. And maybe Bristol might be a cool shot for him. And Cole seems to do well at the short track sometimes. I'm looking at him at Darlington, though, in Bristol. Not Indy for some reason. I'm not sure why. I feel like Darlington and Bristol, he's going to show out somehow and really put the field on notice. Whether that be a really good run or win, whatever, what have you. It's going to be those 2 tracks. For sure. And everybody else below is kind of like... show up and win, I guess. I'm going to do the same thing for Cup as well. Except I'll do mostly the top 4. Mostly I think these guys are safe for the most part. It's just kind of... For them, mostly it's... Can you win and get poles? That's it. Because what you're going to need to do is... You need to try to cut down Lark's playoff point lead however you can. So... That's going to be the most important thing. And, you know, that's a big thing. But also, Silent's not too far away from Lark. David isn't to an extent either. Although I think David's going to need a lot more help trying to catch up to Lark. Silent is 81 points away from Lark right now, which is a full race, behind in 1 point. So he'll need to either outpoint Lark in the next 4 races, or Lark needs to have a really bad race somewhere in there. Maybe Talladega or something, to really have a shot at it. But we'll see. Can't really flounder too much in these late stages of the season. Regular season, I should say. Windows and HP need to show up and just get points, because Caden and others will take that place at some point. HP has some opportunities to show, because the races will be earlier in this late portion of the season. Talladega is going to be around 2:45 EST, except for the Southern 500. That will be around 8, but the Bristol race for Cup and the Indy race also going to be relatively earlier than usual. Might give HP a shot to actually compete for some wins. Who's to say? So it could happen. Caden just needs to also just get points. He's not far out. He's not out of it at all. Really, from 7th through 11th, mathematically, it's not impossible. Twisty Zach, it's also not impossible for him either. It's just that he's going to need to show speed and show up. And for most of these guys that are in that range under the playoffs, it's hard to do either. You'll have guys that won't show up often, but they'll get points, but not enough. Then you'll have guys who show up often and then get nothing because they don't get stage points. Or they don't get stage points and then they finish poorly. So it's damn, I guess. So that being said, I'll look for the next couple of races. Next 2, we'll come back around Darlington and see where things are at, and then we'll come back after Bristol for the final race, and then we'll do all the playoff stuff. So, 2024 winner was Genesect at Talladega. A lot of wins. That's cool. For Talladega, I picked Ufer to win. David picked Wicked. Wyatt picked Carson. Lived picked Rory. Wicked picked Michi. B-Ragged also picked Michi. And Monkey picked Michi as well. Michi is the favorite overall. And then you got some other cool little picks here and there. Then for Darlington, I had NCG winning. David has Liv winning. Wyatt has Michi winning. Liv has herself winning. Wicked has XLT winning. B-Red also has XLT winning. And Curse Skeletons is, for Monkey, going to win here, maybe. Some decent picks, I would say. For Cup, alright. I had Lark winning here. Lark has Windows winning. Liv has Silent. Monkey has Tristan. David has XLT. Caden has Genesect. Tony has Silent. Wicked has Tony. Wyatt has Mr. Beast. Twisty Zack has himself. Charles has... B-Red has Charles. I keep mixing the two. It's funny. Can't really see anyone's the favorite, even though Silent was picked twice. There's no clear favorite. Darlington, that might change. I said Monkey. Lark said Martian Marshall, who's not really here anymore. Liv had herself, although she's not really racing here anymore. So this is kind of invalid to a point. Monkey has Lark. David has Red Knight Fighter 1. Caden has himself. Tony has Rainbow. Wicked has Monkey. Wyatt has himself. Twisty Zack has Charles. And B-Rad has Rainbow. So maybe Monkey is the favorite. Yeah, I'd probably say Monkey's Monkey and Rainbow, I guess. Kind of split, honestly. I digress. It could very well happen. Um, I'll go over the rest of the stuff sometime soon ish. I think that is all. I guess we'll go over playoff tracks and how that was. Now this will be like our final section. Playoff tracks and how they'll, you know, do the thing. I guess. So we start off with the road course. Interesting. All road course specialists are going to love this, or people who don't like road courses are going to really hate this. Then we go to Nashville, Elwood, Chicagoland, Vegas, Phoenix. You have Homestead. Liking these tracks based off their type. We have road course. Nashville will be draft, probably draft and lifting off. So that's cool. Super Speedway, draft and lifting, no draft, draft and lifting. So yeah, mostly some draft lifting stuff. Nashville might not be draft, so who knows. Yeah, mostly draft tracks and some non-draft stuff. A road course in there, Super Speedway. You basically got everything, all in kind of one little mini schedule. So it's pretty cool. Busch is the same thing, although there's talks that Busch might run an alternate version of Watkins Glen with the boot. Unconfirmed that will happen because of how setups are kind of going for that. If it'll be ready, if not, they'll just run the regular Watkins Glen layout that people know. We'll have to see where that goes. Also, for Busch, that is up of interest. Elwood is a non-stage race. It's been like that since season 11, and it doesn't change for season 13. And it's also in the playoffs, which also makes it the first non-stage playoff race in quite some time. And that is going to really throw things out of proportion, considering how if you lose and you don't do well, you lose big. But if you win, which is weird to say, is considering it's only the third race of the playoffs. But we've seen people just not show up and then get in a really big deep hole and not be able to recover. So that's gonna be a race for them to kind of be like, oh crap, I can win something. I can be back in this. It could still happen. I digress. That's all from DGRN Podcast. All from me. It's a bit shorter episode this time, but I'm not sure if you can tell. I'm still battling sickness. I'm dying every day. It's not been fun, but eventually we'll get better. Still have races to go. Indy 500's coming up pretty soon, along with some other races that'll be announced shortly thereafter, sometime during this week, before even the Busch N Cup race this week. So stay tuned for that. And that is